Jaya Radha. You're playing the drum now. You're playing. Come on. You played fine the other day. You got enough beats. Yeah, you can do a little of that. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parujika Acharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujika Acharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So we'll be on page 110 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 6th day of October 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Chapter 2, Contents of the Gita Summarized. Text 40 to 43 on page 110. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanta vipaschitaha vedavaravata parta nanyadastiti vadinaha kamatmanak svargapara Janma karma palappadham Kriya vishesha bahulam Bhogaishwarya gatim prati Yamimam pushpitam vacham Prabhadanta vipaschataha Vedavaravata parta Nanyadastiti vadinaha Kamatmana Swargapara Janma karma palappadham Kriya vishesha bahulam Bhogaishwarya Gatim Prati. Alex, do the first one. Yamimam Pushpitam Bacham. Pravadant. Say again. Pravadantya Vipaschitaha. Vedabhadarata Parta. Jnanadastiti Bhadanaha. Glenn, you next. Yeah, second one. Oh, you did both of them. You did one. Do the second one. Kamatmana Swargapada. Janma Karma Palapadham. Kriyavishesha Bahulam. Bhogaishwarya Gatim Prati. Prakash. Yamimam Pushpitam Bacham. Prabhadantya Vipaschitaha. Vedabhadarata Parta. Nanyadastiti Bhadanaha. Rabbi, do the second one. Kamatmana Swargapada. Janma Karma Palapadam. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. Bhogaishwarya Gatim Prati. Jesse, you want to try it? Just the first one. Yamimam Pushpitam Bacham. Prabhadantya Vipaschitaha. Vedabhadarata Parta. Nanyadastiti Vadinaha. Alright, I'll just read through the synonyms. Yamimam, all these, Pushpitam, flowery Vacham words, Pravadanti, say, Avipaschitaha, those with a poor fund of knowledge. Vedabhadarataha, supposed followers of the Vedas. Partha, O son of Pita. Na, never, anyat, anything else. Asti, there is, iti, thus, Vadinaha, the advocates. Kama atmanaha, desirous of sense gratification. Swargaparaha, aiming to achieve heavenly planets. Janma karma palapadam, resulting in good birth and other fruitive reactions. Kriya vishesha, pompous ceremonies. Bohulam, various. Bhoga, incense enjoyment. Aishvarya, and opulence. Gatim, progress. Prati, towards, progress. And then prati, towards. You can turn that off now, Prakash. Or okay, Alex, you can get it. Okay. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Purport. People in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the karma kanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama Soma Mamrita, Abhuma, and Akshayam Havai Chaturmasya Yajinaha Sukatam Bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the Soma Ras beverages to become immortal and happy forever. 4 months penances, it's Chaturmasya. We're in the middle of it right now. Actually, it's been suspended. for Purushottama Adhikamas. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have somaras to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratifications. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women, and having a profuse supply of somaras wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world. Om Jnana Timirandasya, Jnananjana Shalakaya, Chakshu Unmidatam Mena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Unbelievable. What is the point? I heard that part of it is to try to get the alarms to go off. Jesse, you know about that stuff. Isn't that...
I think they're mentioned in the report.
Okay. All right, so just going back one verse to see the context of what's going on here. And that Srila Prabhupada really emphasized this verse 41. And in the purport he explains why. Because the verse goes, Vyavasayatmaka buddhya ekeha koronandana bahushaki anantata buddhayo abhyavasayinam. Those who are on this path, Krishna consciousness, are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Yeah. Did we skip this verse? Are you sure? I don't think so. You're saying yes, yes. Why would we skip that verse? All right, well, we don't want to skip that verse, so let's go do that one now. I'll see you say. Vyavasayatmaka buddhi ekeha kodonandana bahushaka yanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path. Now, what is that path that's described in the previous verse? Neha abhikrama, endeavoring nasha. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. Buddhi yoga, bhakti yoga. Okay, he's talking about bhakti yoga. Their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Purport. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmaka, intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 2262 states, I'll say you say, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Suddha Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Faith means, this is the definition of faith. In the Bengali, I've learned from working on the CC, this word shabde is kind of an idiom. Okay, this is definition. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. Okay. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family, traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. Now, before we go on, the definition or the translation of this verse, Shraddha Shabde, is actually given before the verse, and that's why devotees think, oh, faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. And what that trust is described before. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatma, intelligence. So, what this word, Shraddha Shabde, Vishwas kohi means a strong conviction, right? Sudvida, very strong, nishchoy, conviction that what? Krishna bhakti korale, simply by practicing the principles of Krishna bhakti. Sarva karma krita hoy, all my aspirations will be fulfilled. I don't have to do anything else. That's the definition of faith. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. This is from the 7th chapter, 19. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches, so by acting in Krishna consciousness one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. And this is the phrase or the sentence that Prabhupada emphasized when he quotes this verse, Vyavasayatmaka buddhi. That one-pointed intelligence is the substance of it is here, accepting the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. I'll say, you say? Yes, let's see if I can remember. Yes, yasya prasadan bhagavat prasado. Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. Dhyayan stuvam tasya yashastri sandhyam. Vande Guru Shri Charanhara Vindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. One who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. And I think I already did Om Jnana, didn't I? Okay. Anyway, we can look at these two together, but we should first focus on Vyavasayatmaka buddhi ekeha kudunandana. So this is a prerequisite. One has to come to this point of faith that simply by the practice of Krishna consciousness, all my aspirations will be fulfilled. Now, what is it that would divert one from that determination? Temptations, especially as Krishna will mention, as mentioned in the next 2 verses we read, of other aspects of the Vedic teachings that will give us life in heaven and all kinds of heavenly delights and things like that. That's what will divert you, because Krishna consciousness is based on vairagya and vidya. Renunciation and knowledge. If you're aspiring for something in the material world, then that's a big anchor in your attempt to move along in Krishna consciousness. We have to really be very skeptical and very dismissive of the allurements of this material world. And that can only come by getting an attraction to Krishna. Otherwise there's no chance. Just theoretically it's impossible. But because Lord Chaitanya came and gave us this chanting, we can actually develop a taste for chanting very quickly if we put our mind to it and we practice regularly, both japa and kirtan, and we make a sincere attempt to follow the regular principles. Then there's that other whole aspect of attraction and pleasure that we experience, even in just a little bit. And so it's not theoretical anymore. We have good experience of material sense gratification, but we also have good experience of the downside of it, the pain that comes from, the suffering. So that's what Krishna is encouraging us. One has to become one-pointed and really serious, And the allurements, generally, as in this flowery language of the Vedas, is the karma kanda section. I mean, we have no idea what kind of pleasures are available in heavenly world, Nanda garden. You know, Prabhupada said that the women are so beautiful, they make the most beautiful women in this world look like frogs, or something like that. You know, and there's some pretty beautiful women on this earth planet. And we have no idea, you know. But it's all described in this karma kanda, so you can easily see how that could be an allurement, and that's mentioned in the next verse, 44. That's a disqualification. If you're too much attracted to bhoga and aishvarya, and you're bewildered by this thing, you can't attain vivasiyatmaka buddhi. It's all bahushaka. It means many branched, your intelligence. So that determination to become fixed, it's a challenge, because this world in Maya presents so many different kinds of allurements. Sometimes it's just on the intellectual plane. You know, sometimes just you're so attached to the speculation and reading this and reading that you can't become fixed. You know, so this is, you know, this is the contents of the Gita summarized. So there's a little of everything here, and this, especially this line, and Prabhupada finishes the purport with this emphasis, is that the one-pointed intelligence, the fixity, is proved by fixing the instruction of the spiritual master in one's heart and following it. And that's true in every level and in every age. The genuine spiritual master, he's not trying to exploit you, he's not trying to lord it over, he doesn't have any material motivation. You know, that's really what the genuineness means. He himself has realized the delights of transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness, and his only purpose is to give that to you, which will negate the temptations of the material energy. You know, what is that? Yat pada pankaj palasha valasa bhaktya karmashayam gutitam udgutayanti santa. This is one of the final instructions of the Kumaras to Maharaj Prithu in the 4th canto. We read it some time ago. And Prabhupada would quote this verse all the time, and it's exactly that. Pada pankaja is the lotus feet of Krishna. Pada pankaja palasha is the toes, really. You know, the bilasa bhaktya. The pleasures that come from bhakti pleasures, from serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Karmashayam gwatitam udgatayanti. Karmashayam are aspirations for fruit of activities and pleasure. So that's in our hearts. So that they're like knots, gratitam, you know, that keep us bound here from previous lives and everything, you know. And even if they're not activated at this very moment, they're in there, and when the right environment comes, those desires are activated. So this transcendental pleasure that comes from serving Krishna's lotus feet, serving Krishna, negates those, and so gratitam udgatayanti, unties the knots or cuts the knots for the santas, for the saints, for the devotees. But others, what does it say? Riktamatayo yatayopi ruddha. Yatya means striving. Riktamatayo means minds empty of bhakti. That's the yogis and the impersonalists and those who are striving for liberation and all these things. They may strive to be free of these because they know this is going to bring us back for another birth and death and suffering. So they want to get rid of those material desires. They may strive through severe austerities, you know, and renunciation, going alone somewhere, you know. But eventually they fall victim to it, one way or another. Because without that bhakti rasa, there's no real way to negate the deep-seated material desires. So that's what Srila Prabhupada has given us, Lord Chaitanya has given us, and Prabhupada has transmitted it to us, is this genuine way that we'll no longer be bewildered by the unlimited varieties of Maya's allurements. You know, we'll see we'll be too much enthralled with Krishna at every moment. That's the idea. So now, then he says, men of small knowledge are very much attached. In other words, this echoes the seventh chapter, where Krishna really has 6 or 7 verses where he's criticizing deity worship, not deity worship, demigod worship. Sorry, it's right after Bahonam Jamanamante. You know this famous verse? After many, many births of cultivating knowledge, one surrenders unto me. I think Prabhupada quoted this one line. Understanding, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadurlabha. He quotes it in the purport to this verse. That he understands that I, Vasudeva, am everything. And such a Mahatma is rare. See, and in the next verse, he says, what usually happens is, Kamais Taistai Rita Jnana. Notice that those who really have knowledge, they surrender unto me. Understanding. It's rare. It may take many, many births, but that's real knowledge. But Rita Jnana, it's stolen away by unlimited desires. Kamais Taistai means plural. Rita Jnana Papadyante Anya Devata. And so they surrender to other gods. Oh, let me worship Shiva to go to the heavenly planets, or let me worship Durga, or unlimited others, you know. So what do? Controlled by their own natures, they worship whatever God appeals to them, you know. And then he says, you can worship whatever you want, you know. He says, yo yo yam yam tano bhakta shodayachitamichati. Everything depends on faith, even in the material world. You know, this one, like you know, someone's driving down this Grand Avenue, they may be going at a good clip, 30, 40, you know, because it's green, you know, and they're at full faith that this one is red, right? If the light screws up and they're both green, havoc, right? So even for our ordinary life, we have to have faith in everything we do. We take it for granted, you know, the world's going to work. Now, when it doesn't, it creates havoc, you know. So whatever you have faith in, or you want to have faith in, you want to worship some tree, you know, whatever, make that faith strong. Yo yo yam yam, tanam bhakta shodayach tasita shadaram aham didamyaham. I give that faith, and then what does he say? With that faith, you worship the God. And then, tasya shradaya yukta tasya radhanamiyate labate chitra kaman mayava vitanitan. And you get some benefit from that, or you think you do anyway. But whatever benefits you're getting, they're ultimately coming from me anyway. But you don't realize that. So then he gives his verdict for all of this. And it echoes exactly what he said here. That avipashtita, they're not very intelligent. Those who are, you know, bewildered by the flowery words of the Karmakanda section of it. What does avipashtita mean? Men with a poor fund of knowledge. So he uses the same idea. He says, Antavatu palam tesham, tadbhavalt opamadisam, probably a very minimal brain substance, not too smart. Devan devi joyanti man bhakta yani mamipi. Those who worship the Devas will go to the Devas. But the Devas are ultimately Jivas, and wherever you go, it may be very nice, but you'll actually come back here. But those who worship me come to me for eternal life of bliss and knowledge. So there and in the 9th chapter also, he criticized demigod worship. Demigod worship. What to speak of worshiping them demons or some politician or something. You know. So that's what this is all about. This is the contents of the Gita summarized, so it's a little of everything here. And he's telling us, you know, telling Arjuna, and to Arjuna telling all of us, don't get bewildered by all this other, you know, it's Vedic in Karmakanda. But if you want the ultimate good, because that's what Arjuna wanted, Yakshre Yaksyan, tell me what the ultimate good is, then don't get diverted. Okay, shall we go on? Next verse is famous too. Very pertinent for all of us. Bhogaishvaya pasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmaka buddhi samadho nabadhiyate. All right, so maybe we'll pray that there not be another attack of the loud motorcycle drivers. We need that door open, Jesse. Maybe if we get Chris's mercy. But it's still, huh? Yeah, the fresh air, you know. But then it gets noisy. There we go. All right. In the minds of those, now this is very important for all of us, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, says Samyag adiyate smin atma tattva yatatmyam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. So, we can't really progress without the vyavasayapika buddhi. It's just like what Rupa Goswami describes in Upadeshamrita. Utsaha nishayadhyayat tat karma pavartanat. Isn't it? There's enthusiasm, patience, and determination in the matter of practicing all the elements of devotional service. So that's vyavasayatmaka buddhi, you know. So we need to aspire for that. But if we're too attached to bhoga, you know, and material enjoyment and opulence, we won't get it. If your mind is bewildered. Okay. So now, very interesting statement. The Vedas mostly deal with the three modes. Trigunya vishaya veda. Nistraigunyo bhavarjuna. Nirdvandvo nitya sattvasto. Niryoga kshema atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Hare Krishna, welcome. Yeah, just get them. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, can you make sure they have books? Do we have some more books? Oh, there's an extra one there. Okay, thanks. Okay. Glenn, give him this one of these books here. We have another book coming for you. Thank you, Prabhu. Page 112. They can do that. Just give them. Yeah, they're on page 112, right in the middle of the purport there. We'll start the purport again. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is a Brahma Jigyasa. There is Brahma Jigyasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. So this may be a little surprising that for the most part the Vedas are dealing with these three modes. Now their ultimate purpose is to elevate us to transcendental position, you see. But most people are immersed in the material modes of nature, And so how to get them out slowly, you see? And so the idea is, well, okay, we'll give so many sacrifices and so many mantras, and disciplines to perform. And in each of them there'll be some mention of Vishnu. But the purpose and the goal will be elevation to a heavenly planet or a better birth and so forth. And so the people will be kept within the Vedic paradigm. And there are so many rules and regulations, against sinful activity. Okay, if I want to go to Nandana Gardens in the kingdom of heaven, then I have to give this up and this up and this up and do this. Okay, I'll do it because I'm a Lord, because I'm really attracted to go. Just like even on the ordinary plane, we'll perform so many austerities, like going to work. I mean, does everyone like to go to work and work with some boss or something, Because I'll get some money, I'll pay my rent, I'll be able to, So we have that principle of austerity leading to enjoyment is universal. But Krishna consciousness promises that if you undergo the rather minimal austerities, that especially in this age, and you follow the program that's been given, you'll get a position that's much greater than anything you can imagine in heaven. It's much better than the Nandana Gardens, where you can live for many, many thousands of years and enjoy good health and youth and no danger and all, But ultimately you have to come back down here and suffer birth and death. So the real platform of enjoyment has to include liberation from attachment to a material body. So the first lesson is, you're not the body. That's not you. Don't identify with it. You see? As I put it into a little sutra, everybody dies. Nobody dies. You get it? Every body dies. Space. Every body dies. But nobody dies. No soul dies. Everybody dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. So that's what we've been reading. And all this about the soul, 20 verses. Basically to convince us, you're spirit, not matter. You're eternal. You never die, which is very good news. But how to realize that? Because in our everyday life, well, we got to live on the, on the platform using the body and identifying with the body. That's who everyone thinks we are. So Krishna consciousness is the art and science of how I can use this very material body, these very same eyes and ears and everything, in a way that will ultimately liberate us from the body. Now, it's not that we become formless. We have a spiritual body, which never dies, and which is just suitable for engaging in service, loving service with Krishna eternally, in just our own custom-made special way, within 5 general categories of servant, friend, parent, lover, like that. It's an awakening to true life. All this life that we have there is like a dream world. It's like a charade. We all have these costumes on. They're called the material body, and in this particular life we enact our activities with that basic costume, which keeps changing and ultimately falls apart, and we die. I mean, that's called death. The soul goes to another body. And you have maybe a different gender, you may be even a different species, and now I got a new costume. All right, let me identify with that one. That's material life. But it's very painful, it's suffering. Even if you get to a point where, okay, I got it made, I have enough money, I got my youth, I got my health, that's good. But it's all changing. It's temporary. We want, because we ourselves are eternal, spirit, we are looking for eternal spiritual happiness. It cannot be found on the material plane. And so we're frustrated birth after birth. So Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga, awakens us to our real life. And by practicing, we can come to the point of making this the whole idea, make this our last embodiment. And as Prabhupada famously said, go back home, back to Godhead. So it's a great science. And here in the second chapter, there's a lot of good instruction. It's a summary of the whole of the whole book. So he's saying, Nistra Gunyo Bhavarjana. Don't because Arjuna was giving arguments from the Vedas, but he wasn't quoting really the transcendental part. Prabhupada talks about the Upanishads here, right? And the different parts of the Vedas. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. The Gita summarizes all the teachings of the Upanishads. It's known as the Gita Upanishad. It's purely transcendental. So, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, subject matter dealing with the three modes, most of the Vedas. But Arjuna, you be transcendental. Nistrigunya Bhavarjuna. I want you to rise above the three modes. That becomes very explicit in the 14th chapter. Nirdvandvo Nityasattva sto. Be fixed in goodness and beyond the dualities. Nirdvandva. Nir yoga kshema atma. Now this idea of yoga and shema. Yoga in this context means the things we need to live. Food, shelter, clothing, basic necessities. And shema is your security. We want that also. We need those two basic things. You need a safe place, and you need a security, and you need basic things to live. He says, don't worry about them. If you become a servant of Krishna, then Krishna says, I personally carry. It says, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana payapasate tesham nitya vyaktanam yoga kshema mahamyaham. This is in the 9th chapter. And it's in the same context of criticizing or trying to convince Arjuna not to be diverted by deity worship. I keep saying deity worship, demigod worship, sorry. They're also deities of a sort, small d. But, and then he says, but even if you go to heaven, he says, Tetam bhukva svargalokam vishalam, you're in svargaloka, which is heaven, you'll enjoy godly delights. But chine punne matya lokam vishanti. When your pious credit, it's just like putting money in the bank and getting a nice big fat credit card, and then you can go spend it. You can go to Hawaii, you can go to Las Vegas, and I'm enjoying now, But then boom, one time you give him the credit card and he kicks it back out. So, Mr. Jones, do you have another card? I'm sorry, this one. Oh, now I got to go back to work. So similarly, you get certain pious credits by sacrifices and worshiping the demigods, but then you spend it in the heavenly planets. Te bhukva svarga loka. Svarga is a word for heaven. And chine punye, when your punya credit is exhausted, martya lokam vishanti, you come back to this world of death. Oh, that's depressing, So therefore, even to dhamma monopapanna, to these karma kind of section, you just keep going and coming. You don't make any progress. That's it. So don't do it. The next verse is the one I chanted. Ananyas chandayanto mam. One who worships me with one pointed. Ananya chetak satatam yomam smarati nityasa. No. Ananyas chandayanto mam ye jana payupasate. One who just worships me without diverting your mind, vyavasayatmaka buddhi, diverting your mind to the demigods, then tesham nitya viyuktanam, who's always linked up, yoga kshema bahami. I provide your necessities. I provide all the security. Remember the process of surrender? Do we mention those, Alex? The 6 symptoms of surrender. You remember them? One of them is rakshashatiti vishvaso goptadvevananangtada. Those are 2 of them. And rakshasi means confident that Krishna will protect, and goptadve means confident that Krishna will maintain. That's the yoga and shema, that God will maintain. So that's what surrender is all about. But you can imagine if you're actually in that mood, then you don't have any anxiety, and Krishna gives. Prabhupada came to America, he had nothing. He had really no money, no followers. Who does that at age 69? And it's not like if you go to a foreign country, many of us have traveled, you go, or even just go to across the country. You want to make sure where you're going to land, who's going to pick you up, where you're going to stay, right? And that you got your return ticket, Prabhupada didn't have any of that. Gets on a boat, then not an airplane, he gets on a boat, not even a cruise boat, or it wasn't even a passenger boat, it was a cargo boat. It was one cabin for him. There was free passage. And he comes to America, to New York, and he had one contact in Pennsylvania. He was able to stay there for a little bit, and he made his way to New York. There was another yogi who established himself, stayed with Dr. Mishras for a month. He had a few contacts here and there, but basically he was just wandering, trying to find a footing, and relying on Krishna. And he wasn't worried. This is the thing. Well, if we were in that situation, oh my God, am I going to have to stay on the street like these guys over here? I only have, it would be tremendous anxiety. And Prabhupada just Yogakshema Vahamyaham. Well, Krishna, you brought me here, so and it came out successful. Look at this, all over the world. Prabhupada was flying here and there. He had thousands of disciples, but he never deviated. It's not that I made it, now I'm just going to enjoy. There was a place in Detroit, a very opulent temple came up, and he had a couple of disciples. Ambarish was quite wealthy, and also was an heir of Leka Shravanti was an heir of one of the main labor organizers. So he had some money, So he was able to purchase it. It was worth millions. He got it for a few $100,000. And says, okay, now I got it made. Now I can stay in this mansion. No. After it was all done, he packed up and went flying off to Africa or something to be with his devotees and preach, and sacrifice, always sacrifice. But he was always on this transcendental plane, blissful, and even when the time came, obviously, that he was going to depart, he went to Vrindavan, which is the most auspicious place, surrounded by devotees chanting and everything. So he showed how one can live in this world very austerely, but be completely happy and without any anxiety. That's the point. And it's, we can experience that. And we just read the verse, a few verses back, which is so encouraging for devotees. Neha bhakamanashosti pratyavayo navidyate svopam apyasya dharmasa trayate mahato bayat. In this endeavor, Krishna consciousness, there's no loss or diminution. Meaning that once you understand and believe, okay, I'm a spirit soul, I'm a spirit, I'm not going to die, I'm going to go on to the next life. Right? There's another life. And that's how I got to this life. This has been a very short chapter, a very long book, our present life. So now I understand that. So here he's saying that even a little advancement in Krishna consciousness, like attending maybe a Bhagavad Gita class one time, you've already done it. You're just sitting here. So that protects you from the greatest fear. You know what the greatest fear is? Losing the human form of life. All of these animals and plants and everything that's alive is a spirit soul, just like us. But all of these poor animals, their consciousness is much, much, much more covered. They can't understand, even if they wander into the class, sometimes they do, the bugs, they can't understand anything. But as human beings, we don't want to lose this human life anymore. Stay up here. And the only way to absolutely ensure it is by at least doing some Krishna consciousness. But why prolong the agony? Why not try to go back to guided? So the point is, it's very encouraging that even we should try as hard as possible to perfect it. But even if we don't, because we started late and it's very difficult, we should know that we'll get another chance. Everything that you've done is carried forward. Everything you've done materially is left behind. Because it all pertains to this body. But the body's going to go. Right? You may have $10 billion, like I pointed out, but there's a name on that bank account. And that name is the name of this body. And you're going somewhere else. The body stays here. So that money's going to the state or your heirs or something. You're not taking it with you. But whatever you do spiritually, however much you can, advance, chant Hare Krishna, get a little traction, that stays with you. You carry it. If you do 1% this life, you'll start with 2% next life. So what, it's in other words, it's the greatest investment. Forget about the stocks and the bonds and everything else. This is where you should invest as much energy as possible. Krishna consciousness. All right, so I kind of got carried away there. Let's do one more. Yavanata udapani sarvatak sampratodike tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Purport. The rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the Karma Kanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 15:15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of the living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15:7. The living entities are parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7 as follows. Also, you say, Aho batasha pachoto gariyan yajjigbagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnaraya brahmanuchu nama gunanti yete. O my Lord, this is spoken by Devahuti to her exalted son Kapiladev in the middle of his teachings to her. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala, dog-eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals, and studied the Vedic literatures many, many times after taking his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all the Vedanta and the Upanishads thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist, instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool, and thus asked him to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna. And, now this is an important sentence, so pay attention. And the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in the chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. So, we may not always we may not always be crying and horripilating when chanting Hare Krishna. But no one here can say that you never had any pleasure in chanting the holy name. And if you stay, you'll hear the kirtan, and we will chant Hare Krishna. And if you just listen really carefully and repeat, there'll be a certain pleasure there. It doesn't say you have to be so much pleasure, just a little pleasure, and that will be to your eternal credit. So we don't have time to really get into this one. Maybe we should. This is an important verse. Maybe we'll repeat this one tomorrow. Okay, we have time though for one little poem. How about the holy name, since that was what that whole purport was about. And what could be better than Shikshastika, the first verse, Cheto Darpanamajanam Bhavamaha. You can all chant with me, come on. Cheto Darpanamajanam Bhavamaha Davagni Nirvapanam Shreyakaidava Chandrikava Tadanam Vidjavadu Jivanam Anandam Vadivardhanam Pradipadam Purnamita Swadanam Savatmasna Param Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds. Wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds, indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.